Hemp for Independence. Independence in food and health, independence in shelter and security, independence in energy and productivity. Independence then and now. Then, my great-grandfather and grandmother on my mother's side, Frank and Levaisa Coffin, came to what is now Alberta, Canada, following a small herd of grazing cows. They lived on the bank of the Milk River, northwest of the Sweetgrass Hills, on grassland that no one else wanted, long before there was a town or road or railroad in that dry part of the Canadian prairies. It is surprising how little seems to have changed there in about 140 years. Yesterday, we were still able to find a narrow horse path between rows of indestructible caragana bushes, ending near a sunken area in the side of the river valley that was almost certainly the Coffin family's first sod house. Near a scattering of decayed boards, the remnants of the small house which they were eventually able to build there with lumber hauled by wagon hundreds of miles from central Montana. They lived on real protein foods, meat and fish and milk, with berries and wild plants and a few garden vegetables as novelties. They had to continuously prepare to protect themselves and their animals from long 40 below zero winters, from 100-mile-per-hour winds, from seasons with no rain and very little water in the river from the nearby mountains. They branded their calves every year. They were rich in food and necessities, but they had virtually no income for many years. They raised their babies to be independent, hardworking, adventurous, and successful like themselves. Many years later, when the first railroad entered what is now Alberta from the east, they collected most of their cattle, sold them to cattle buyers, and shipped them to Ontario. After that, they were locally wealthy and could buy other land more suitable for farming. They were also able to loan money to children and others to buy farmland. All of this was only possible because cattle, grazing on free land, provided them with everything they needed for food and health, shelter and security, as well as energy and productivity. The children of Frank and Levaisa Coffin were able to develop large farms and live in concrete houses with running water, supplied by windmills. Now, it is not now possible in most parts of the world to use cattle grazing on free land to become independent and wealthy in food and necessities. Indeed, all of the land that was used by Frank and Levaisa Coffin to start their large family, indirectly producing many generations and many hundreds of independent, self-sufficient individuals, is now owned by a government that has been manipulated by elites to ensure that millions of acres of our most desirable land is now protected behind no trespassing signs. Governments controlled by convergences of elites are determined to crush independent humans and replace them with consumers, debt slaves, trained to do single tasks. Instead of using our human ingenuity to survive the crushing effects of nature, we must now use our energy and ingenuity to survive the crushing effects of governments controlled by convergences of elites, manipulating us with false narratives. After birth, I was brought to a tiny two-room house that my father had purchased for $20 and then placed on the ground near the Milk River, about 10 miles west of the location where my great-grandparents, Frank and Levaisa Coffin, had started their family about 60 years previously. Wheat was then the only valuable grain crop suited to this dry, short-season, high-altitude part of the prairies, but the Canadian government stole our wheat from us every year for over 60 years. The Canadian government forced us to sell to them, even though we could always have obtained much more for it from U.S. buyers. Farmers who tried to sell their own wheat to U.S. buyers were grabbed from their houses in front of their families, put in leg irons to make an example of them, and then jailed until they crumbled. When I was 3 years old, my father and uncles managed to smuggle a short-season variety of barley into Canada, which we soon increased and began to market as planting seed to our neighbors. As soon as the Canadian government learned that we were going to have a crop that would replace the wheat which they were stealing from us, they included barley as a wheat board commodity, thereby making it illegal for us to sell planting seed to neighbors, or to sell our production to anyone other than the Canadian government. The Canadian government stole our barley business. As soon as I could walk, I was involved in the production of eggs and chickens and turkeys and milk and cream, as were all other farm children. In those days, poultry and milk cows were scavengers that ate plants and bugs that humans could not eat, and then converted these plants and bugs into valuable proteins. We thrived on these virtually free proteins and paid our expenses with the income we obtained from the surplus production that we sold inexpensively in town. By the time I was 8, the Canadian government had begun regulating us out of these businesses. First, we were threatened with jail if we continued to sell our young male birds as fryers. Then we were threatened with jail if we sold milk or cream to the public. Eventually, we were threatened with jail if we sold eggs to the public. Government agents used to go to the local grocery stores to obtain lists of store customers who did not purchase government-approved milk, cream, eggs, and poultry. Government agents would then question townspeople to discover where they were obtaining their protein foods, so they would have evidence when they came to our farms to threaten us. We tried beekeeping. We hired a mill to saw up the many tens of thousands of wooden pieces needed to make the 10,800 frames and 1,200 boxes required for 200 beehives. We then spent hundreds of hours, every available moment, day and night, making complete hives. Before spring, my father drove a big truck filled with bags of clover seeds up and back for many miles on the frozen Milk River, careful to drive on the frozen riverbed or in places where the ice was thick. My friends and I rode in the back of the big truck, throwing clover seeds onto the riverbanks. In early spring, our bees had an immense crop of clover to convert to honey and protein, pollen. We sold our products in all of the local stores, and it seemed like this would be a great agricultural business. But after 2 years, laws were changed so that we were required to sell our honey without significant profit to a processor for pasteurization and packaging. Once again, farmers would not be allowed to market directly to the public. It would not make sense to continue unless we borrowed immense amounts of money to purchase immense numbers of beehives and the equipment required to extract and pasteurize the honey. My father did not want to become a debt slave to the convergences of elites that design and profit from agricultural programs, so we also quit honey production. After farm children quit producing our inexpensive proteins, townspeople especially began to eat more sugars and starches. Obesity and type 2 diabetes began to appear, first in larger families that did not have sufficient funds to buy protein foods from government-approved sources. This trend continues to the extent that virtually everyone will soon expect to be debilitated with diabetes and hardened arteries, medicated for high blood pressure, long before they are old. In 1998, we began a new agricultural product, and we soon developed the Hemp Hearts products and programs that make it easy to reverse the disastrous effects of government involvement in food and health. We learned the truth in the statement of Hippocrates: "Let thy food be thy medicine, let thy medicine be thy food." Those who learn to use our hemp foods and programs certainly do not need any government health care. They become noticeably independent relative to food and health. Now it is time to develop the hemp products and hemp programs that will also make us independent relative to shelter and security, as well as energy and productivity. We live in a country that is over 90% undeveloped land, but convergences of elites use regulation to force many of us to pay about $1 million in total labor value for a place to live. We live in a country with infinite potential in terms of agriculture, energy, forestry, mining, etc., but we are so controlled by convergences of elites that half of us survive on government checks and the other half works for foreign multinationals. It is time for change. Hemp for Independence in Food and Health. We at Rocky Mountain Grain Products spent the last 20 years learning how to maintain and restore health with the 2 families of hemp food products displayed here. Virtually anyone can now learn how to use our food products to increase energy, to experience perfect digestive health, to control or reduce weight, to reverse diabetes and cardiovascular disease, and to improve all body tissue health. Those who are interested in the potential of hemp farming relative to food and health, shelter and security, as well as energy and productivity, should begin by experimenting on themselves with our food products, so they will better understand the potential of their own hemp project. So they will have the health and energy necessary for the success of their hemp project. Hemp seeds can be carefully planted in perfect rows at perfect depth with perfect nutrients for maximum production, or they can be thrown into prickly hedges from where they can be harvested with hedge trimmers when ripe. In most of the world, hemp grows wild in such places where some of it is used by humans, birds, and animals, but enough of it falls on the ground to produce crops year after year. Hemp seeds can easily be removed from their stalks when ripe by beating the plant tops against a floor or a wall. The seeds should then be allowed to get very dry, possibly on a clean floor, before they are stored in pails to keep them from bugs and birds. Very dry seeds store for many years. Slightly wet seeds will become moldy and foul-tasting before the next harvest is ready. Our competitors often use their moldy seeds with cane sugar and sea salt to make value-added foods. Dry hemp seeds can then be swept from the floor and cleaned over any screen that has been selected to hold back the larger seeds, allowing the smaller seeds to fall through. Smaller seeds can be used to feed domestic poultry and lactating mammals. Properly sized large hemp seeds containing hemp hearts can be shelled by impact or with pressure in thousands of ways. The simplest way to shell them is to wrap a thickness of tape around each end of a rolling pin and then use the rolling pin to break the shell. After most of the shells seem to be broken, the lot can be dropped into an airstream so the shells will separate from the heavier hemp hearts. Clean hemp shells are a perfect medium for growing mushrooms, for space-filling material to replace plastic peanuts and bubble wrap, for absorbent bedding for animals, but they are not digestible. Beware of our competitors who include indigestible shell material in their protein powders, claiming that they are dietary fiber. Original hemp hearts and two families of foods made from them. 20 years ago, we learned that original hemp hearts could be used in a high-energy, gut-lubricating family of products which turbocharges older individuals with energy and which also lubricates their gut tubes to provide perfect digestive health. Much recent research indicates that virtually all cancers and many other late-onset health issues are caused by out-of-balance microorganisms. Those who follow our health programs for using original hemp hearts with raw vegetables for breakfast always experience abundant energy and perfect digestive health, and normally remain impervious to many late-onset health issues which debilitate others. Hemp is an indeterminate growth plant, meaning that when some seeds are ripe and falling from the stalks, other seeds are still a little immature, and others are very immature and quite green. We use screens to separate out the most immature seeds, which we later use for animal feeds. But some of our shelled seeds are still covered partly with a green membrane. We offer three colors of original hemp hearts: dark green, light green, and almost white. Beware of very white shelled hemp seeds. Some of our competitors poison their crops before harvest, so all of their seeds will be fully ripe and white. Other competitors cut their crops before they are ripe and leave them to ripen on the ground, where they become outhouses for insects, rodents, and birds before they are threshed for human consumption. These dangerous seeds, too, produce very white shelled hemp seeds. We offer our original hemp hearts in 2,200-pound plastic-lined mini bulk bags, in 16 or 25-pound pails, in 1-pound plastic tubs, or in 2-ounce free sample bags. Value-added foods made from original hemp hearts. We make a large number of very tasty, high-energy, gut-lubricating, value-added products from our original hemp hearts. We offer many choices of these value-added hemp hearts foods with sufficient long fibers that the foods will not cause liquid bowel movements. Hemp Hearts High Energy Crumbles. A very tasty example of this high-energy, gut-lubricating family of products is our new Hemp Hearts High Energy Crumbles. We make the Hemp Hearts High Energy Crumbles for mountain climbers, but they are equally attractive to old people and to overweight people who always need more long-lasting energy. They consist of roasted original hemp hearts, cranberry, almond, maple syrup, cassava, and Tree of Life mesquite protein. Each serving is the protein equivalent of 1 quart of mother's milk, while having about 500 calories. More than a square meal bars. Another very tasty example of this high-energy, gut-lubricating family of products includes 22 choices of more than a square meal bars. Almond, cashew, pecan, macadamia, Brazil nut, pine nut, walnut, hazelnut, prune, date, blueberry, strawberry, cranberry, cherry, coconut, fig, goji berry, papaya, pineapple, apricot, mango, and raisin. We make each choice of more than a square meal bars with only 3 ingredients, mostly original hemp hearts, 24 square inches of large bits of nut or fruit topping, and a minimum of chocolate to bind all of the parts together. Each bar is almost the protein equivalent of 2 quarts of mother's milk. Little Man Jeffrey Luke's Square Meals. Another very tasty example of our original hemp hearts, high-energy, gut-lubricating family of products is Little Man Jeffrey Luke's Square Meals. These square, wafer-like cookies are made with original hemp hearts protein, butter, egg, cassava, Tree of Life, mesquite protein, cinnamon, and baking powder. Each serving is the protein equivalent to 1 quart of mother's milk. Hemp Hearts Protein Flakes family of foods is also made from hemp hearts. After sending tens of thousands of health surveys to long-term customers, we learned that the real protein in hemp hearts, very similar to the real protein in mother's milk, could be used to restore elasticity to seriously hardened arteries, thus reducing blood pressure in less than 3 months. We learned that the real protein in hemp hearts could also be used to restore circulation to diabetic feet, and to make diabetics sharply intelligent again. We learned, in fact, that the real protein in hemp hearts could be used to restore health to hair and nails and skin and joints and organs, but that very few individuals would be likely to use sufficient original hemp hearts for this restoration unless they learned to avoid starch and processed foods. Those who did not learn to use their original hemp hearts with raw vegetables would often poop in their pants or gain weight. Therefore, we remove some oil from original hemp hearts to make a 60% protein product called Hemp Hearts Protein Flakes, which has become the basis of a much higher protein family of products. This family of products makes it possible for customers to immensely increase the protein content of their diets without pooping their pants. This family of products makes it very easy to restore tissue health to old bodies without changing diets fanatically, even while losing weight when necessary. We offer Hemp Hearts Protein Flakes in 3 package sizes, in 16-pound pails, in 1-pound boxes, and in 2-ounce sample bags. Value-added foods made from Hemp Hearts Protein Flakes. Hemp Sweethearts. We make a large number of very satisfying, tissue health restoring, value-added foods with our Hemp Hearts Protein Flakes. One of the many choices of these Hemp Hearts Protein Flakes foods is our Hemp Sweethearts. They are quite simply flakes that have been sprayed with an insignificant surface layer of maple syrup, Tree of Life mesquite protein, and cassava. Each 2-ounce, 200-calorie serving is the real protein equivalent of 2 quarts of mother's milk. Apart from plain flakes, they are the best product we have for restoring tissue health, for diabetics, for those with hardened arteries, and for those who desire to lose weight quickly without loose skin. Hemp Sweethearts are available in 2-ounce servings and in free taste sample bags. Hemp Hearts High Protein Crumbles. Another satisfying, tissue health restoring, value added food made with our Hemp Hearts protein flakes is our Hemp Hearts High Protein Crumbles, which are similar to Hemp Sweethearts above, except that we offer them with almost equal amounts of bulk store style dried cranberries for taste and for their coarse fibers. Hemp Hearts High Protein Crumbles are available in 4-ounce servings as well as in free taste sample bags. Square meal desserts. We also offer 18 choices of square meal desserts, each made with 2 ounces of Hemp Hearts High Protein flakes, topped with large bits of fruit or nuts, bonded with 1 ounce of chocolate. They should be consumed warm with low-fat yogurt for calcium. The 18 choices of toppings include blueberry, strawberry, cranberry, cherry, papaya, pineapple, prune, date, fig, apricot, almond, cashew, pecan, Brazil nut, hazelnut, walnut, macadamia, and coconut. Hemp Hearts Protein Powder. We grind our Hemp Hearts protein flakes to make our Hemp Hearts protein powder. Without shell material and without the accompanying surface pollution that contaminates all competitors' powders, our Hemp Hearts protein powder measures with about 2,000% less pollution than other hemp protein powders. We offer our Hemp Hearts protein powder in 16-pound pails, in 1-pound tubs, and in 2-ounce sample bags. Hemp Hearts Oils. Although our Hemp Hearts oils begin as byproducts of the pressing of original hemp hearts to make Hemp Hearts protein flakes, they are the only hemp oils that are made from the internal parts of the hemp seeds, without any of the shell pollution that other competitors wash into their oils. Our competitors squeeze pollution-covered seeds to make their oils, washing their shell refuse with the oil produced. The first oil produced in our process is our dip dressing sauce. It contains significant amounts of pulverized hemp hearts and is therefore the only oil available containing any protein. We filter dip dressing sauce to remove the bits of hemp hearts that make the most perfect green hemp hearts oil. We filter the green hemp hearts oil at freezing temperatures using the natural waxes in the oil to filter out most of the microscopic green bits, thus producing our clear hemp hearts oil, the most perfect hemp oil made. All of our oils are available in US 5-gallon pails. Dip dressing sauce is also available in 250 milliliter glass canning jars with a little empty space to add dressing ingredients. Our green hemp hearts oil and clear hemp hearts oil are also available in 500 milliliter glass bottles, individually covered with white boxes. Our project for growing hemp, for manufacturing various hemp foods, and then for utilizing these hemp foods to restore health to those who were previously debilitated is complete. It is not difficult to utilize our real protein hemp hearts foods to restore body tissue health to real protein deprived North Americans. We now use the products and programs we have developed, A, to perfect digestive system health, B, to eliminate high blood sugar issues and to reverse diabetes, and C, to restore elasticity to hardened arteries, resulting in childlike blood pressure. Those of us who have learned how to do this have little need for doctors, medicines, or the healthcare programs of big governments controlled by elites. Our food and health independence is complete. Hemp for Independence in Shelter and Security. We recently constructed and installed powerful machines to tear the fibers from hemp stalks and then separate the fibers from the woody parts. We are now beginning to use these hemp fibers with strong bubbles and Portland cement to make strong, fireproof, waterproof, construction materials, especially conversion kits for ocean container houses, even complete prefabricated houses. We have plans for unique security systems and for unique waste treatment systems for our hemp bubble cement shelters. We will soon be able to offer independence relative to shelter and security, as well as food and health. Hemp for independence in energy and productivity. We are now also processing fibers at high temperatures in alternating high vacuum and high pressure inert gas environments to make hemp graphene and other carbons. We have plans to use these various carbons in dual carbon batteries and capacitors, as well as in large flow capacitors, where we will be able to store huge amounts of energy from our indestructible windmills, which are almost ready to use. We will then be able to offer independence in energy and productivity, as well as shelter and security, and food and health, making our hemp projects complete.